the Honorable Member, Ms. Samanza Walton Desir, to ask her question. An oral questions without notice normally will get only 2 supplementals. And I was raising the issue earlier of accuracy of statements and resolutions that are coming to the House. And I could have easily also ruled against this particular oral question without notice because it is headed International Criminal Court, and in the body speaks of International Court of Justice. The ICC deals with prosecuting persons. And the ICJ deals with the issue of borders. So, Honorable Member, Ms. Amanza Walton Desir, you may proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for drawing that typographical error to my attention. Mr. Speaker, the question that I have for the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs is premised on the decision by the ICJ, specifically the interim measures indicated, where the court made 2 distinct decisions. The first, as it relates to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela refraining from taking any action that will modify the status quo, that is, Guyana's current administration and control of the area of Essequibo. And the second one, both parties will refrain from action which might aggravate or extend the dispute before the court or make it more difficult to resolve. The declaration appears to consider the second limb of the ICJ judgment, and therefore my question to the Honorable Minister is, could the Honorable Minister indicate to the House whether during the course of the negotiations which resulted in the Argyle Declaration, the government of Guyana specifically requested the first limb of the interim relief granted by the ICJ, which enjoins Venezuela from interfering with Guyana's administration and control of the Essequibo? Did they specifically require that this form a part of the declaration?
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Hugh Todd.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I respond to the member's question, I would like to take this opportunity to apologize for being late. I had to attend an accreditation ceremony with His Excellency the President. The answer to the honorable member's question, Mr. Speaker, is yes.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Amanza Walton Desir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy and I thank the Honorable Member for his question. For his answer, rather. My follow-up question, therefore, is if you requested, why isn't that reflected in the declaration?
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, I think if the honorable member would have read the declaration carefully, you would recognize that it's implicit in the declaration and it's mutually beneficial to both parties, beginning also with the title declaration, which speaks to peace within the region. So it was incorporated into the context and content of the declaration.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Amanza.
Mr. Speaker, we have a document titled the Declaration that the Honorable Member expects us to accept that a matter as important as ensuring that the security that Guyana enjoys from the interim decision of the ICJ that we are to imply it. In a declaration, the essence of a declaration is for something to be stated and declared, Mr. Todd. So that answer is completely unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, I have one more question.
Mr. Speaker, I would like
Honorable-
to react to the honorable member before she goes on to the next question.
Thank you. I was about to say, Honorable Minister, if people make a statement, I said before, I'll give you, the Minister, a chance to make a statement too.
Mr. Speaker, so in responding to the honorable member's remarks, honorable member would recall that Venezuela agreed not to threaten or use force against Guyana, either directly or indirectly in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. And I go on, Venezuela committed to the pursuance of good neighborliness, peaceful coexistence, and the unity of Latin America and the Caribbean. And thirdly, Venezuela noted the position of Guyana that it is committed to the process and procedures of the International Court of Justice for the resolution of the controversy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Amanza Walton, this you may now ask that follow-up question.
Yes, Mr. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the explanation proffered by the Honorable Minister, and I agree with him that Venezuela did in the declaration specifically undertake to do these things. But I wonder whether the Honorable Minister is prepared to accept that the use of force is but one mechanism or aspect of the interference with Guyana's ability to administer Essequibo. It certainly is not the only way that our administration and control of the Essequibo could be interfered with. And I want to draw his attention to Article 9 of this agreement, because Article 9 says that they will have to speak, in essence, with Venezuela on any matter that has implications for the territory. And I am deeply, deeply disappointed, deeply concerned that the Honorable Minister is suggesting to the people of Guyana that the threat of the use of force is the only way that our administration and control of the Essequibo could be interfered with. Is the Honorable Minister saying to us then that, is he prepared to accept that this was an oversight on the part of the negotiating team?
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That is not an oversight on the part of President Ali and his delegation. May I also remind the honorable member that paragraph 9 of that declaration speaks to any other matter, any other. So there are many other matters of mutual importance that we can have conversations on and discussions on outside of the case that we have at the ICG. And that is what we're referring to in this paragraph. Also, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member would also, having read the declaration carefully, and I'm hopefully more than once, and listening to His Excellency the President, maintenance and the preservation of our sovereignty and territorial integrity, the President has made clear to the people of Guyana and to the people of this region that we will explore all available options to ensure that we have a peaceful coexistence with Venezuela. Thank you.
Thank you very
One
much,
final-
Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Hari. Remember, I was very clear. Sorry, Ms. Sarab, Ms. Amanza Walton Desir. Very careful. Honorable member, two supplementals, you had the two.
Thank you,
Right.
Mr. Speaker. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Ministers,
Honorable,
including policy statements.
Honorable member, Mr. Hugh Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Statement by ministers. Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Hugh Todd, you wanted to make a statement?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, you would be aware that on the 1st of December, the International Court of Justice published its decision on Guyana's request for the provisional measures concerning Venezuela's referendum. The order of the court, which was unanimous and final and binding on both countries, stated that, and I quote, pending a final decision in the case, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela shall refrain from taking any action which would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute. Thereby, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana administers and exercises control over that area, end of quote. And secondly, that both parties shall refrain from any action that might aggravate or extend the dispute before the court or make it more difficult to resolve. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members will also be aware that despite the court's order, 2 days after Venezuela conducted its referendum on the 3rd of December, a number of measures were announced by that government to give effect to the purported results of the said referendum. The measures include the creation of a High Commission for the Defense of Guyana Essequibo, a proposal to promulgate the organic law for the defense of Guyana Essequibo, which would include the implementation of the 5 responses of the referendum, which are: 1, rejection of the 1899 arbitral award; 2nd, the rejection of the Geneva Agreement of 1966 as the only, sorry, not the rejection, but the Geneva Agreement of 1966 as the only legal instrument; no recognition of the jurisdiction and competence of the International Court of Justice; a mandate to secure the maritime border with a line of the azimuth 70 starting from the mouth of the Essequibo; and finally, creation of a Guyana Essequibo state. Mr. Speaker, the publication as a decree in the official gazette of the 6th of December 2023, the creation of a new comprehensive defense zone, Guyana Essequibo, that will defend economically and militarily on the strategic comprehensive defense region of Guyana, and this is Essequibo. The designation of a Major General, Alexis Cabello, as the sole authority of Guyana Essequibo, political administrative headquarters in Tememero, Bolivar State. The stated intention was to proceed with the granting of licenses by Petroleum of Venezuela and the Petroleum Corporation of Guyana Minerals for the extraction of oil, gas, and mineral resources in the territory of Guyana Essequibo. The dissemination of a map of Venezuela incorporating Guyana Essequibo into the national territory of Venezuela. The installation of an office of the Administrative Service for Identification, Migration, and Immigration in Tememero, Bolivar State, to carry out the census and give Venezuelan citizenship and national ID cards to the population. the promulgation of a special law to prohibit concessions in Venezuela to the foreign oil companies that operate in Guyana in the disputed area of undelimited waters in the Essequibo with a 3-month deadline. And the promulgation of the creation of environmental protection areas and the national parks in the territory of Guyana Essequibo. Mr. Speaker, the measures announced were a direct threat to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Guyana and blatantly disregarded the December 1st order of the court. They are also an affront to the political independence of Guyana as a sovereign state and the violation of the fundamental principles of international law enshrined. The government took a number of diplomatic initiatives in response to the illegal actions from Venezuela. And Mr. Speaker, this House will recall that the President has had several engagements at the level of heads of state and government, as well as international organizations here within the region and extra-regionally. Guyana has had tremendous support on the side of international law from our friends, our partners, as well as institutions that Guyana are committed to. Mr. Speaker, you would recall also that the President of Brazil, President Lula, along with the pro tempore chair of CELAC, Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez of the St. Vincent and Grenadines, who, during his chairmanship, has also spoken with many of the heads within Latin America and the Caribbean. And you would recall also, Mr. Speaker, that CELAC is an intergovernmental organization that speaks to political consultation, that speaks also to peace and stability within the region, that speaks also to environmental protection and human rights. So within the CELAC umbrella, Mr. Speaker, and within the sub-regional grouping that is CARICOM, and CARICOM's advocacy on this matter, President Ali was encouraged within those frameworks to have dialogue with President Maduro, on maintaining this zone as a zone of peace. And also, he made it very clear, orally and in writing, that he was not going to engage on the controversy that Venezuela has with Guyana over the validity of the 1899 award, arbitral award, which is before the International Court of Justice. And for emphasis, Mr. Speaker, I will recap what I had mentioned to the honorable member, that coming out of the declaration, the joint declaration, which we believe has been mutually beneficial to both Guyana and Venezuela, and by extension to CARICOM and CELAC, that Venezuela has agreed not to threaten or use force against Guyana, either directly or indirectly, in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. That Venezuela committed to the pursuance of good neighborliness, peaceful coexistence, and unity of Latin America and the Caribbean. Moving on, Mr. Speaker, Venezuela noted the position of Guyana that it is committed to the process and procedures of the International Court of Justice for the resolution of this controversy. I end here, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, before I proceed, I think it's important noting the presentations we've had regarding the matter at hand. That just after 11 o'clock today, I did receive a letter from Senator Cedric Perrin, excuse my French, President of the French Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defense and Armed Forces. Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, it's noteworthy, and I will read the letter. The Honorable Speaker Mansour Nadir, National Assembly of Guyana. Mr. President, it is with great concern that we observe the rising tensions between Venezuela and Guyana following the referendum organized by Caracas on 3rd December 2023. While the meeting between President Maduro and President Ali on the 14th of December, at the end of which the two heads of state pledged not to resort to force, gives cause for some optimism. The territorial dispute between Venezuela and Guyana can only be resolved in compliance with international law. Which we must be determined by the forthcoming decision of the ICJ. Guyana has referred the matter. As senators you received on the 6th, as the senators you received on the 16th of April pointed out, the French Senate is committed to respecting your country's sovereignty and security. We will therefore follow developments in the situation with utmost attention. Rest assured that we will stand by your side in these circumstances. Please accept, Mr. President, the assurances of our highest regard. Signed, Cedric Perrin. End the quote. Sherlock?
Public business, government's business.
Honorable members, the Assembly will resolve itself into committee to consider the two financial papers that have been put on the agenda for today. Please join me as we turn to financial paper number 4 of 2023. Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with Article 171(2) of the Constitution, I hereby signify that Cabinet is recommended for consideration by the Assembly the motion for the approval of the proposals set out in Financial Paper number 4 of 2023, supplementary estimates current and capital advances made from the contingencies fund totaling $1,899,647,334 for the period from 1st of October to 8th of December 2023. And I now move the motion, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, just give me 1 minute to find my digital copy. Great. Honorable members, let's turn to the first page of financial paper. I will always defer to you. Financial paper number 4, and I propose a question that the sum stated for agency 1. Item 1, agency code 12121, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Development of Foreign Policy, Chart of Accounts 6322, Subsidies and Contributions to International Organization. And I propose the question that the sums stated in these supplemental papers stand part of the estimates. Honorable Member, Mr. Manza Walton Dizio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the requested amount here is for 382418. Mr. Chair, I want to verify whether the amount voted here is correct, because I want to refer us to volume 1 of the 2023 budget. At page 477, the voted provision is 156,375.
Just repeat for me again.
I'm just querying the amount voted here, whether it's correct, the voted provision.
857.
Because yes, we had 156,375. 121. 12,121 Ministry Foreign Affairs.
Could you restate that sum for me, please? The voted provision you're on?
Budget,
Uh-huh.
sir. The voted provision was set out as 156,375. But we could clarify that. I'm willing to accept the clarification at a later date. I want to observe, though, that this is a very large supplemental funding relative to what was budgeted. And I wonder whether the Honorable Member could explain the reason.
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
The amount that is being put to this House today, Mr. Speaker, caters for our arrears and payment that will take us to the end of this year, the 1st of December.
Thank you. Honorable Member Mansa Walton Dizio.
Yes, sir. The Honorable Member referred to our arrears. So I must ask, what was the arrears outstanding as of 2022? And could the Honorable Member say to us, why was it not catered in the 2023 budget?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it was catered for in the budget, as I recall, but we can check back the numbers. What has happened, Mr. Speaker, is that we have to wait on, or the procedures that we wait on the RSS to submit the invoice, and then we go through the process. They were a bit late actually in submitting. So when they submitted the arrears as well as the current balance, we decided to pay both at the same time.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member Mr. Mansa Walton Dizio.
Could the Honorable Member then say 382,418, 300? Would that clear out all of our arrears under this head for this year?
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member is paying attention, she would recall that that's what I said earlier, that will take us to the 1st of December.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member Mr. Mansa Walton Dizio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to assure the Honorable that I heard what he said, and I was very deliberate in asking the question again. Mr. Chair, I have one more question. The invoice that the Honorable Member referenced, has there been over the years a variation in the amount? I ask the question because I am wondering, if it is a fixed contribution, why would it not be possible to budget for it as should be done as a fixed, as it were, expenditure. The reason I'm asking this is that I wonder, are there variations in the invoice? And if there are variations in the invoices, what would occasion um, the variation? Because it's like I noted, it's quite significant.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Guyana is a relatively new member to the RSS. We only joined in 2022, I recall. August of 2022, I think we signed on to the treaty. So this is our first full year plus within the organization. We pay based on, there's a measurement that they use for your contribution, which can vary from year to year. So it's not fixed.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now put a question that Honorable Member Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the paper before us for consideration is financial paper 4 of 2023 for a contingency fund. You would agree with me, Mr. Speaker, that the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act speaks to the section 24(4) speaks to the issue of such papers coming to the National Assembly for approval. I would like to ask the minister, the very minister who just answered, Honorable Todd, what was unforeseen, what was the emergency that would have request of you coming to this house at this stage for this approval? All right, I understand he said something about RSS. But then again, we had a supplementary paper in August of 2023. So therefore, at the preparation of that paper, the ministry didn't see the need to cater for such provision.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since I'm on my feet.
No, Honorable Member, I just put that question to the Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is an organization that we just signed on to, and we've had other charges as well. We have been working closely with the Ministry of Finance in conjunction with the RSS. So the invoices that we've received, we have decided that we would have to come back to the House to pay what is due to the RSS. Going forward, we will have a better understanding of the charges so that we can meet those payments within the yearly budget.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member Ms.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Follow up to that, to the answer given. The minister said that they received invoices. So can the minister, to effect this payment, so can the minister say to this house, when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs received these invoices?
Honorable Minister.
As I had explained, Mr. Speaker, we received 2 invoices together. One that showed the arrears balance and the current balance due. We received it, I think, sometime in, I think it might have been September, I believe. Yeah, sometime. I can actually get the exact time, but it's sometime that we received invoices. Actually, we were following up on it, and that is how we actually got the information and the invoices from the RSS itself.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now put a question that the sums.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Honorable Senior Minister.
Thank you very
Finance.
much, sir. Just to respond to the first question that was posed by the Honorable Member Amanza Walton Desir in relation to the voted provision indicated, and to advise, sir, that what the Honorable Member was looking at was the detailed table. As you know, we provide in the estimates a detailed disaggregation of the contributions and subscriptions that we are paying to the various international organizations of which we are a member. And so what the voted provision indicates in the financial paper is the total voted provision for that particular line item, chart of account 6322, subsidies and contributions to international organizations. So that 857,563,000 represents the voted provision for that line, which is the practice when these financial papers are prepared. The estimates will then provide a disaggregation by international organization, and the $156 million to which the member was referring is the disaggregation that relates to the RSS in particular. I thought I should offer that clarification, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senior Minister. Honorable members, I now put a question that the sum stated for Agency Code 12-121, Chart of Account 6322, stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The sum stated herein now stands part of the estimates. Honorable members, we now turn to item number 2, Agency Code 21-212, Ministry of Agriculture, Chart of Accounts 6321, Subsidies and Contributions to Local Organizations. And I propose a question that the sum stated herein stands part of the estimates. The Honorable Member, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, could the Honorable Member kindly detail the operational cost that is set out in this $643,690,000?
Honorable Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this here is for wages and salaries, and it's breakdown wages 383 million, salaries 172 million, that is our monthly staff, and pension 88 million, giving you 643.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Could the Honorable Minister say whether this is as a result of new employees or the ordinary employees that were there from since the beginning of the year?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, this came about because of our program. We remember we reopened Rosal Estate. Rosal Estate now is producing sugar. We have employed a total of 543 new employees. And we employ these people because of the mechanization program that we have started. And we must also see those persons are from the area of Rosal who were severed when the factory was closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to thank the Minister for that answer. So could the Minister say what caused the Sugar Corporation to fall short in meeting the wages and salaries for workers during the month of November in particular?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, to my knowledge, we have been meeting our targets, and no employees did not receive. No employees were denied salary during the month of November. I know for a fact that all weekly salaries and monthly salaries were paid in November.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I understand the Minister saying that this operational cost was part of ensuring that the workers at Rosal Estate were being paid. Mr. Chair, could the Honorable Minister say to this House what was the set target for the Rosal Estate for the crop since it was refurbished, both daily and weekly?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, when we were looking at Rosal, the target was set at 5,000. But when we went into the field, it was abundant, there was large forests, and because we were trying to push the mechanization system, we had to employ these employees. And when we went there, now we have produced 1,000 tons of sugar, just over 1,000 tons, because the canes and the land that we expected to meet, we did not meet when we went there. So now we are doing the mechanization. I know for a fact that Rosal will be one of the most productive estates again in Gaisuku.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, just to be correct, the Honorable Minister is saying that they produced just over 1,000 tons of sugar at Rosal Estate. Mr. Chair, if that is so, what is the total operational cost for both field and factory for this estate since the reopening?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I can lay that over to the Honorable.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, could the Honorable Minister also provide for us whether the Rosal Estate would have made any profit based on the sugar produced and the sugar sold?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, the Honorable Member like me would know that. But in the first crop, the initial crop, you had an estate now is producing once again that was closed by the opposition, by the government then. Now we are trying to rebuild that estate plantation back. The estate is running effectively. All the parts have been rehabilitated. And shortly, yes, we will make profit. But you can't expect to make profit in the first crop to produce 1,031 ton. So yes, definitely Gaisuku, because every year we are seeing that Gaisuku is taking less and less from the public health.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, could the Honorable Minister now say what was the estimated duration of this forest crop since the reopening of the estate?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, the operation period was 6 weeks, and we grind Rosal for 6 weeks.
Thank you. Honorable Member, Mr. Ramjatan.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, could the Honorable Minister state whether any study has been done in relation to the labor that will have to be obtained to ensure that the estate is a success, in view of the fact that the young people in that area do not want to go and cut cane and fetch it to the ponds?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I have been saying this over and over, and Mr. Ramchitan, the Honorable Member, would have known too, that I said that we are trying now to do mechanization in Gaisuku. We know for a fact that some of the people don't want to go back to cut cane with this labor-intensive job. And we are mechanizing, and that is why we have studied and we are starting the mechanization at Gaisuku. We have now bringing in machines that will cut the canes, that will load the canes, and we are looking now to make Gaisuku more modernized and more mechanized.
Thank you.
Could the Minister indicate how many mechanized harvesters there are there for this last crop that made 1,000 tons of sugar?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, we have 4 across the industry.
Thank you. Honorable Member.
Charles, could we listen to the Minister?
Mr. Chair, just an additional point. The Honorable Member should not confuse harvesters from loaders. We have many loaders, but we have 4 harvesters.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Sir, the Honorable Minister received in August $1.5 billion for the rehabilitation of temporary abandoned lands at Albion, Blaymont, Rosal, and Eiffel Estates. I'll focus on Rosal for now. Could the Honorable Minister say how much of this 1,572 hectares of land that were scheduled to be rehabilitated was rehabilitated, and how much is under cultivation at present?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just over 1,000 hectares are under cultivation. I was saying earlier, that the next crop and the other crop will be good for result.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Could the minister indicate when it is that this estate and factory is going to make a profit in view of all the mechanization that he is going to input? When?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I will not be able to say when, but we are working towards that. That is why we are reducing the subvention from central government. We are working towards that.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Ramjitan.
Is there absolutely no projection by this minister as to when it is going to become profitable?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, we have a lot of projection, unlike the opposition. Now, when we ask them to do a socio-economic study at Rosal and then destroy it, we had this year, we set a target, and we will reach that target. Next year, we set a target, and we will reach that target. And we'll continue to set projections. We'll continue, for example, we said we want to start the mechanization process. We have started it. We are now advancing in that stage because we know for a fact that harvesters, cane cutters, you are not finding so many cane cutters now. That is why we want to mechanize. So the point I am trying to say, Gaisuko is moving into a different phase. And the honorable member to appreciate what we are doing because we want to keep this Gaisuko alive because Gaisuko is the single largest employer of people in our country, and our government will continue to maintain Gaisuko and keep Gaisuko alive.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, seems as though there's a lot of confusion concerning this particular provision being sorted. But let me remind the honorable member, based on his response to Comrade Vince Roy, when you said that, when he asked, was the total production, you said over 1,000 hectares, right? Well, 1,000 tons. But then again, in August, sir, this, and I'm referring to the official report of the National Assembly. When the question was put by my colleague, Honorable Valda Lawrence, concerning, could the honorable member kindly indicate to the committee how many hectares he has now brought on the cultivation at, well, that was for Rose Hall, right? And yeah, for Rose Hall. Your response to her was, Mr. Chair, approximately 4,000 hectares are under cultivation now. That is why we are starting the second crop of 2023 at the Rose Hall estate this time. So my question to the honorable member would be, from this provision that you're seeking, how many of this provision is going to Rose Hall, and how many hectares of cultivation has been done to date at the Rose Hall estate?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, the honorable member probably didn't comprehend what I said. This is for wages and salary, not mechanization. And when I made this statement in August, and the honorable member would have asked how much land we put into mechanization, I said just over 1,000. But the honorable member didn't ask me how much manually we did. And at that time, I reported to Honorable Member Valda Lawrence the manual amount and the mechanized amount that we would have done totally, over 4,000. And this money is not going to mechanization, it's going to wages and salary.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. George.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I'm happy that the Honorable Minister stated that the money is going to salaries. Honorable Minister, through the Chair, could you tell this House what actual revitalization works were achieved and how much of that $1.5 billion was spent at Rose Hall in order to effect the reopening?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, approximately 90% of that $1.5 billion is expended at Rose Hall because the state of the cultivation only went there.
Thanks, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, the Honorable Minister, I would not venture into the numbers. Mr. Chair, the Honorable Minister is saying to us, that after spending 90% of $1.5 billion, that the Rose Hall estate was reopened, and we experienced, and he knows for a fact, the Honorable Minister, that there were major mechanical failures in the estate. Mr. Speaker, the boilers were losing steam, leaks on the steam pipe and centrifugal baskets, overheating at various points within the estate. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, could the Honorable Minister then say to us what really this 90% of the $1.5 billion did?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, this money was used to mechanize the cultivation. We have to change the Dutch bed into broad beds so that they harvest and work. I didn't mention about the factory. You have other sums that were spent in the factory, which was retooled and rehabilitated by Guyanese. And it's one of the most modern factories now in Gaisuko with the four, right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And so the Minister helped me along. So what then was the additional cost to remedy all the mechanization failures, or mechanical failures rather, within the factory?
Minister.
Mr. Chair, I will lay that figure over to the Honorable Member. Mr. Chair,
Minister.
I was saying I will lay the figure over to the Honorable Member, but I want to say that Rose Hall factory was left to deteriorate. When we went there, we rehabilitate and we try and bring back all the parts. We try to mechanize and bring it back. That is why we have it so effective now. But I will lay the figure over to the Honorable Member.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will accept the information, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, my final question here is, what is the actual wage bill for weekly workers within the Corporation of Gaisuko? And what is the total for monthly workers within the corporation? So I'm asking if the Minister can kindly give me that as weekly and also monthly.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to call a figure here and mislead this Parliament. I will lay the figure over to the Honorable Member.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now put the question. Honorable Member, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up and clarification from the Honorable Minister. Earlier when the question was posed, the Honorable Minister stated that when they set the target and that they went into the field, then they realized that there are a lot of work to be done in the field. My question and clarification to the Honorable Minister, is this the standard operation procedure of the ministry or Gaisuko to set a target, then go and see what they have to work with?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, if the Honorable Member know how targets are being set, Gaisuko, as the Honorable Member Ramston would have said just now, you have to do projection for years. This target of 5,000 a year before, when we went into to do the replanting, and we find it's what we found in the cooperation in terms of the cultivation, entire forested area, abandoned field, hundreds of ponds were sunk, we have to raise it, and all those things we have to take into consideration. But the most important factor we must take into consideration that the PPP civic government brought back Rose Hall to life.
Thank you. Minister, Mr. Jones.
Yep, thank you. So, Comrade Chairman, just to confirm, so the minister is saying indeed that they first set targets, then go and see what they have to work with.
Minister.
Mr. Chair, I don't know how the honorable member interpret that, but I am saying that projections are made. We are making projections and we have set ourselves targets, and that I am saying.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Chair, the Honorable Minister just stated that after they would have set the target, they saw fields with overgrowns and all of these stuff. Mr. Chair, is it that the Honorable Minister is saying to this House that he had no idea of how many fields or the amount of canes that were there to be harvested for the factory to grind before setting the target?
I'll give this particular line of question, that last one, Minister.
Mr. Chair, I answered that question already.
Thank you
And I
very
am
much,
saying
Minister.
good. Thank you.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the sum stated for item 2, Agency Code 21-212, Ministry of Agriculture, Chart of Account 6321, that the sum stated herein now stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Sum stated now stands part of the estimates. Item number 3, Agency Code 40-401, Ministry of Education, Policy Development and Administration, Chart of Account 6291, National and Other Events, and I propose a question that the sum stated herein stands part of the estimates. The Honorable Member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the Ministry of Education is asking for $20 million as an advance for the period October 1 to the 1st of December 2023. And the explanation given for this provision, it caters for hosting the annual Caribbean Examination Council governance meeting and the regional award ceremony. Could the minister tell this House, Mr. Chairman, when was Guyana chosen to host the 2023 CXC governance meeting and award ceremony?
Honorable Minister.
Guyana the ministry was unaware at the time that the budget was prepared for 2023 that we would be hosting the CXC governance meeting and regional awards.
Honorable Member.
Sir, are we to believe that the annual governance meeting is an ad hoc meeting for CXC?
Honorable Minister.
No, in fact, Guyana hosted twice. Both times I was Minister of Education. The CXC, as well as the rest of the region, as well as the world, had shut down face-to-face meetings that were not absolutely necessary because of COVID. And so while it's not ad hoc, as the honorable member says, that's the correct phrase, all kinds of considerations go into where the meetings will be hosted. Perhaps tellingly, like I said, both times that it was hosted here, it was with a PPPC government. And so it's very well thought out. The Caribbean Examinations Council thinks clearly about where they want to host their meetings.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I understand it, these activities were concluded first week of December. Could the minister provide a breakdown of the expenses for the $20 million?
Honorable Minister.
Yes, please, Your Honor. We usually have to do that before we are allowed to get the contingency award. Well, at least this Ministry of Finance under this government requires that. Transportation for delegates and awardees, $3.5 million. Courtesy visits and lunch, $500,000. CXC governance meeting, $3.5 million. Regional awards ceremony, $5 million. Meeting of principals, $3.5 million. Tours for delegates and awardees, $2.5 million. Tokens, branded shirts, and other paraphernalia, $1.5 million, totaling $20 million.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The first expense was captured under transportation. Could the minister say if airfares and accommodation for the CXC officials were catered for under this $20 million?
Minister.
No, CXC pays their own fee, but we had local accommodation and some transportation costs for things like taking delegates, picking people up from the airport and so on. It's very common to all host countries. This is $20 million, sorry, to host the region's governance meetings and awards.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
And this, to be clear, this was internal transportation around Guyana.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could the Honorable Minister tell this House if CXC would have contributed financially to the award ceremony and the meeting we've had here?
Minister.
Sir, the CXC provided sir, the regional awards meeting, is the honorable member talking about what happened at the cultural center? The entire thing lasted 2 days. Like I said, CXC's officials paid for through the CXC, transportation and accommodation here. This would have been things like the cocktail had after the award ceremony, decor for the stage, paying the hostess, the performers, those kinds of activities. But if the honorable member wants a dollar by dollar breakdown, we can lay that over.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Sir, I just want to repeat my question. Understand at the beginning, my first question, the minister outlined the expenses for the $20 million breakdown. Just want to repeat my question. Did CXC contribute financially towards the 2 activities we've had in Guyana in the first week of December, whether it's 2 days, 3 days, a whole week? Did they contribute?
Minister.
The CXC paid, so there can be no participation if people didn't jump on a plane and come here. So in that sense, they contributed to the participants coming here. There can be no participation if people didn't have a place to go and bathe and lie down and sleep and get up and dress and so on. In that sense, they participated for their hotel accommodation. Did they pay for the decor on the stage? No. Did they pay for the hostess? No. Did they pay for the cocktail reception? No. Guyana, known for its hospitality, paid for that.
Thank you, Minister.
Sir, I just want to share my understanding of the minister's response with you for clarity.
No. Ask the question. Don't share your opinion.
Is the minister saying that CXC did not contribute financially to the 2 activities, sir?
Honorable Minister.
Sir, I'd be happy to lay over for the honorable member. We are being carried on the World Wide Web, and I'd ask us all to be cautious and careful about how we speak about the region's examination council and the hosting of it specifically when Guyana has performed so excellently. And I said where the contribution came and where we contributed. But I would be even happier to lay that over, dollar by dollar, cassava ball by cassava ball, for the honorable member.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now put the question with the sum stated herein for agency 40-401, chart of account 091, that the sum stated herein now stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The sum stated now stands part of the estimates. Same item, agency code 40-404, chart of account 2607400. And I propose the question that the sum stated herein stands part of the estimates. Honorable Member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis.
Thank you for the, thank you, Ms. Gill. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, could the minister tell this House which schools would receive or have received the furniture at this time?
Honorable Minister of Education, Priya Manikchan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Zealot Primary School and the Arthurville Primary School. Arthurville is on the island of Wakenham, and the residents there, hitherto in the last 5 years, what had been built was this spanking new, very pretty guard hut, but the school was dilapidated. And the residents' parents rightfully made an objection to their children going to a school that was dangerous for them. And so we broke that down and reconstructed a school. While we were able to use back some of the furniture, in the process, we had to replace some, as well as put in for the first time something the school has never had, furniture for the TVET labs, the computer labs, and all the other facilities that are currently in that really nicely appointed school. So it's for Arthurville on the island of West Essequibo, on the island of Wakenham in the Essequibo River, and for Zealot. When I visited Zealot, sir, in 2021, I think, the school was literally shaking. And I made a commitment immediately that we would rebuild the school, which we have done. But that was done through the region. And while the estimates catered for the building, the physical infrastructure, the region perhaps didn't think it through and didn't cater for furniture. We have now changed how we're building schools. And by the way, that is very common. It wasn't corrected in any of the 5 years that my colleagues spent in government, that buildings were built and furniture was provided later. We're now changing that, and we are putting in the entire bill of quantities, the buildings, as well as what would be needed to furnish, and that's what people are bidding on through public bid processes. And so these are for the rebuilding of the Zeeburg School, which is Zealot School, which will house over 500 children.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, on this very line item, a follow-up to a response given by the honorable member. My question to the honorable member, since this is a contingency fund, monies would have already been expended, I guess. Can you say for the provision of these services, what type of procurement method was used to procure these furniture?
Honorable Minister.
Generally, what we're trying to do, Mrs. Chair, is try to buy goods and services from persons in the community. So if we're in Wakenham, we would try to give the job to people in Wakenham once it can be done to our specs. But we would use the Ministerial Tender Board and MPTAB, given depending on the amount of procurement. So we have different things. If we want 30 buckets, so I can give you exactly what we bought and what quantity at what cost, and it comes under a particular amount, we go to the Ministerial Tender Board. And if it is something that is costing so the ministerial, I heard a heckle from across there. If it's a Ministerial Tender Board, then it has the method is already determined. It's 3 coats, and and if it's MPTAB, it can be single source or it can be public bid, depending on what the thing is. If it's a screen that only LG provides, for example, then we have to go directly to LG. But if it's a pen that 20 people or the entire country could provide, we would go publicly. So there's several items that were bought here. Like I said, I'd be happy to list out for you per school what the items are, at what cost, and how many units per item. Would you like me to do that?
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Follow-up. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm happy that the honorable member has made a decision to lay over to this House the method and the disaggregation of this amount.
I think she asked if you want her to do that.
Pardon?
Ms.
Yes, I would like her to do it, sir.
I could do it now, sir.
Okay.
Right?
No, I could.
I suggest you later. Honorable Member Ms. Ferguson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I heard the honorable member made reference to the Ministerial Tender Board, and I guess my colleague, the Honorable David Patterson, can assist me here. But under this legend, this is capital, which is new furniture being procured. So I was just wondering, what is the cutoff point for the Ministerial Tender Board? Because this sum being sought is 31 million and change.
So the Ministerial Tender Board cutoff is 1.5. So anything above that is 3 million. Anything above that is above NPTAB, National Procurement Tender Administration Board. So it would be $1,499 as the cutoff.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now, Honorable Member
Mr. Chair.
Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. Am I to understand from the honorable member that MPTAB was involved in the procurement process?
So remember what I said. I saw, for example, 30 buckets because this school needed 30 buckets for whatever reason. And what was needed was determined by the school's community, the parents, teachers, and students, as well as the friends of the school. So if we bought 30 buckets, it may have come up to, I don't know, whatever, 30. I don't know how much a bucket is. I have it here, I can give it to you. But if it comes up to under one, we would go to the Ministerial Tender Board. If, however, we are buying 30 computers and that comes up to $7 million, then we had to go to MPTAB. So I can't tell you here that we did one or the other generally because each item would have been dealt with differently. You'll get that when we lay it over.
And you mentioned that before, Honorable Member, Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Natasha Singles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, could the minister tell us if this unforeseen purchase of furniture to accommodate the large number of students, particularly in Region 3, has anything to do with the influx of Venezuelan children in our communities?
Honorable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this school was much so that I thought I was feeling faint until what's happening here. And then I realized the school was shaking. Nothing had been done with it from 2015 to 2020, which is why these Guyanese children, whether Guyanese or otherwise, were in danger. Children of this world were in danger. This school hosts and has been shaking long before the honorable member recognized that there was Venezuelan children here. In Guyana, we proudly accept into our education system children who are eligible for education. That means once they're past nursery age, regardless of where they come from, it is a humanitarian gesture on our part to make sure our children that we have in our communities are educated. And I would think that the other side of this house would like to join us in that responsible behavior and exercise their influence in communities where they see children who are not attending school. So to be clear, the majority of these children are from Guyana and Guyanese. I cannot speak from here to give exact numbers, but I would say with great pride that any child who is in this country that is of an eligible age, that needs an education, will get it under the PPPC government, whether they're Venezuelan or Surinamis or Guyanese or anything else. That is our aim. And that is why, sir, we were able to reach universal primary education under the PPPC government, so declared by the United Nations. And that is why, sir, we will reach universal secondary education under the PPPC government, as recognized again by the world, which means all our children of school age will be able to access a school. That, sir, is compared with not a single secondary school starting and finishing for 5 years under the APNU AFC, something they should be enormously ashamed of.
Honorable member.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I join with the Minister of Education to endorse that every child
Honorable
of school
member.
age.
Please, is there a follow-up question?
Yes.
Please, go ahead.
Every
question.
child is
With the
entitled to education in Guyana. I join with the minister in saying that. Could the minister tell us how many Venezuelan children will be benefiting under this project?
Honorable Minister, clearly. Go
As
ahead.
many children as are falling in the catchment of the Zealot Primary School, regardless of whether they're Guyanese, male, female, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, Brazilian, Venezuelan, they will get an education at that school, and a good quality, sound education, and we are very proud of that, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable member.
Sir, since the minister cannot give us a definitive figure, I will tell you what my figure
No,
is.
please ask a question.
Sir,
Please ask a question.
sir, how many Venezuelan children are benefiting from this project? I believe it is over 1,000.
Honorable Minister, there's a question. How many Venezuelan children, which you've answered before?
As many as fall within the catchment area, who are entitled to an education under all the treaties and conventions that we have signed, as
Thank you,
many
Minister.
as fall within that catchment.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could the minister say to this House if more than 1,000 Venezuelan students are benefiting from this project?
Honorable Minister.
Mathematics continues to challenge the APNU AFC and every single one of its members. The school has a capacity for 500. 500. 1,000 would be double that capacity. And the honorable member may or may not understand that that would be impossible. The honorable member is giving us a figure as a matter of fact of 1,000 people, children benefiting from this school that are Venezuelans. And I want to remind the honorable member that there is something called a privilege in this house that she should not abuse.
Honorable Member Miss Ferguson.
Sir, I don't take lightly that the member is threatening.
I recognize the Honorable Member Miss Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in an earlier response, the honorable member stated that the building was rock shaky and all manner of things, right? All right, what I need to find out from the honorable member, since she stated that the two schools benefiting from this, that would have benefited from this provision, are Zealot and Arterville Primary in Wakenham. Can the honorable member state for this house how many furniture were procured, and also how much children actually benefited, right?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not through with my question.
Okay, you
So
ask
kindly-
one, and I can choose to put it as you ask them or in bunch.
Okay.
So I've already called on the Honorable
Miss-
I've already called on the Honorable Minister to answer the first one. Go ahead, Minister.
Your Honor, remember I said that we have an exact list of what we bought. We said 500 children are benefiting from Zealot, and Arthurville, last I checked, I think it was 97. But when you have new schools, we also encourage attendance. So you might see that number rising a little bit, especially in places like Arthurville.
Thank you, Minister. Go ahead, Honorable Member, Ms. Ferguson. No, Honorable Member, you said you had other questions. Okay. Honorable Member, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, could the minister tell us what percentage of grade 6 students will benefit from this project?
Honorable Minister.
100% in both schools, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, I think we have exhausted the questions in this particular head, and I would like to put the question now that the sum stated for agency 40-404, chart of account 260-7400, that the sum stated herein stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The sum stated now stands part of the estimates. Honorable members, we can now turn to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and you will bear with me for a few moments as the shadow person for the opposition will be back at her seat in a few moments. She's asked me to hold for a moment for her. I don't want to proceed to the other head as yet because that's local government, and I don't want to break the rhythm of the questions in that. She's here? Entrance for the honorable member. Honorable members, item number 4, agency code 51-515, Ministry of Home Affairs, Guyana Fire Service, chart of account 6231, fuel and lubricants. And I propose the question that the sum stated herein stands part of the estimates. Honorable Member, Ms. Geeta Chandan Edmund.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Under this line item, the minister is seeking an additional 24 million under the heading Fuel and Lubricants. Can the Honorable Minister give a detailed breakdown on how this amount will be spent? And is this request premised on the fact that there is an increase in fire or perhaps in an increase in fuel? And can you also state what are your plans to enhance resource and support services and expansion of the services within this sector to ensure that there is readiness by the fire service?
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Brindley Horatio Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the honorable member for her question. I'm glad that she did mention the issues of an increase in fires, which is a fact. There has been a large requirement for responses to fires in this dry season. We have the El Nino on us. Temperatures have been going up to 34, 35 degrees Celsius, particularly in country areas where it has been dry. There have been a lot of grass fires. There have also been a number of malicious setting of fires, and in addition to that, the fire service has the ambulance service with it, and the responses for both the fire service and the ambulance service itself, which it is partnered with, is also in response to increased calls and also in response to malicious and fake calls, which adds up to all of the problem. The sum that we're requiring is just $24 million. There have been a number of new assets which we have procured. 2 new excavators, and we brought online a couple of new assets, including a new firefighting unit at the airport, an aerodrome firefighting unit, and a ladder for going up to rescue people, which is employed at the hotel fire on the East Bank. To give some specifics, we have, in terms of grass fires, 807 grass and rubbish fires countrywide, 6,140 ambulance calls for the year so far, 510 building fires were recorded year to date. We have a new support nuclear Hilux pickup, 2 new excavators, and all of this requires our response to what the bills acquire, the payment for the fuel and lubricants.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Minister, can you say, in terms of the malicious setting of fires, how are these being dealt with by your ministry? What is the status of your investigation? Have you initiated intended prosecutions? Have some of the matters been filed in court, etc.?
Honorable Minister.
The difficulty with this is the time when these occur and trying to put together what may be involved in it. They have been referred to the police. There has not been as yet, though there are files on the matter, there has not been any specific one which has gone to the courts in respect of any person. But we keep working at it.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member.
Thank you, sir. Can the Honorable Minister indicate whether any of these files, that's in relation to the malicious setting of fires, are with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution? I'm just trying to ascertain the status of these files.
Honorable Minister.
No, I cannot say the moment that we have any of the DPP's chambers, but we will check on that in respect of the reports from the fire service and from the police.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, sir. I take it that the Honorable Minister is committing to laying open the status of these investigations?
Honorable Minister.
Insofar as the reports which are being completed by the fire service, yes, and we will check with the police for the status of any investigation which they are pursuing.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I now put a question that the sum stated herein for Agency Code 51-515, Chart of Account 6231, that the sum stated herein now stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The sum stated now stands part of the estimates. Honorable member, quite a few members are asking if we could take a lunch break now. I will agree. And let's get back here within 1 hour. Many times I sit for half an hour waiting for a quorum. Let's take a suspension now for lunch. 1 hour.
We are a peaceful people, struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces